Greetings, everyone. It's Dr. Mordecai, and thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Discovering Your Mission with Dr. Mordecai. On today, my guest, the Dr. Linda Thor, current governing board member for Maricopa Community College District. However, for over 29 years, she served as the CEO of a community college, district, or institution. Let me tell you, I have read about Dr. Linda Thor for a number of years, and I was privileged to meet her when I was a student for the League for Innovation Executive Leadership Institute. And I remember this moment of just, wow, I am finally getting a chance to learn from someone who I have read about for a number of years. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about her background. Again, CEO for 29 years. She was the chancellor of Foothill-De Anza Community College District from 2010 to 2015. She was president of the Rio Salado College from 1990 to 2010, 20 years. She was president of Los Angeles College from 1986 to 1990. You want to talk about someone who I wish I had an entire hour with. I wish I really could, but you know what? The nature of this show, it is less than 30 minutes. So I had roughly a 22-minute interview with Dr. Thor, but so much wisdom given in that amount of time. Without further ado, my interview with Dr. Linda Thor. Greetings, everyone. Once again, it's Dr. Mordecai, and I am here with Dr. Linda Thor, the legendary Dr. Linda Thor. Dr. Thor, thank you so much for making time for me on today.
My absolute pleasure, and it's great to see you again, Mordecai.
It's great to see you. I've got a few questions. There's so many questions I want to ask you. I'm going to do my absolute best in this next 20 minutes to see how far we get. And to the listeners and watchers, let me tell you, you're in for a treat today. You've already heard the bio, so let's just jump right into it. So Dr. Thor, can you share with us what inspired you to pursue a career in higher education, and how did you navigate your path towards pursuing these different roles in higher education, specifically community colleges?
Well, to be honest, I didn't think I was going to be in higher education. I thought I was going to be in public relations. Shortly after I graduated from Pepperdine University with a degree in journalism, I was hired by the university to be the Director of Public Information for the School of Continuing Education. And when it was time for me to move on, the employers that were interested in me were higher education institutions. So I went to work for the Los Angeles Community College District as a public information officer. And it's really important to me that what I do with my time makes a difference. And I remember being out to lunch with the director of public relations for the Kidney Foundation and saying to her, "You are so lucky that you have a job that makes a difference." And she looked at me and said, "Are you crazy? Yours is the job that makes a difference. Education is everything." And that really opened my eyes and changed my whole mindset about what I was doing. So I was very lucky to have had 5 promotions in my first 12 years with the Los Angeles Community College District, taking me from that entry-level position to president of West Los Angeles College, where I was for 4 years. Then I moved to the Maricopa Community College District, where I was president of Rio Salado College for 20 years. And then I moved back to California to be chancellor of the Foothill-De Anza Community College District for 5 years, and then returned to Phoenix, where I ran for the governing board of the Maricopa Community Colleges, and I'm now running unopposed for my 3rd 4-year term. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Let me tell you, I will tell you, anyone that was thinking of opposing you is pretty smart to just sit on down and not even try. I wouldn't. It's probably good for their health. I wouldn't try it.
Well, I was opposed the first 2 times, so it's a real relief to not have to be campaigning.
Yeah. I was it Mr. T. I pity the fool that would try to oppose Dr. Linda Thor. Let me ask you this, Dr. Thor. I know that along the way, I can only imagine. And the first time I really had an opportunity to sit under your wisdom was through the League for Innovation's Executive Leadership Institute, ELI. I certainly want to just call that out and say to anybody that's watching this, you're considering being a community college president. That is a training institute that you definitely want to participate in. But you begin to share some very significant nuggets during that time when I was under your instruction. Could you just share for those that are watching this right now? They have aspirations to be a community college president, a president themselves. I can only imagine the lessons that you've learned along the way. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you think you faced, and how were you able to overcome those?
Oh, challenges. I've had a few. Uh, First, in when I was named acting president of West Los Angeles College, I was to lead an institution that had lost 44% of its enrollment in the previous 4 years. And the Board of Trustees was actually thinking about closing the college. I was just 36 years old. And the board told me that if I wanted to be a permanent president, that I had to increase the enrollment of the college by 30%. And they gave me 6 months to do that. Well, since I've shared that I was a CEO for 29 years, obviously we increased the enrollment 20%. Actually, it was 33%. Um, and
Wow.
we really did that by having a vision of where we wanted to be and embracing what I now realize the board had given me a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, and by
Mhm.
empowering the employees. That combination of having uh, a goal that you knew you couldn't just yawn and make that happen. Everybody had to work towards it. And I had to let go and let the employees help me do it. The other, and it was a 20-year challenge, was being the president of Rio Salado College. And I say that because Rio Salado was founded as a college without walls. And today, we'd call that a virtual college. But it was founded to innovate and challenge the limits of tradition. And we were to take quality higher education to the people wherever they were. So you can imagine that you're always embattled when you're constantly introducing new innovations into the very sometimes traditional higher education world. So we were embattled by our sister colleges, sometimes the accrediting commission, sometimes the universities, sometimes the legislature. Uh, in that 20 years, Rio Salado moved from being the sixth largest of the Maricopa Community Colleges to being the largest. And again, we really did that by focusing on culture and making sure that we had a compelling vision, a very clear mission, and that we had shared values. And again, letting go and letting people do their jobs. They're
Mm.
absolutely amazing.
Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Linda. Let me ask you this. I'm sure that there's some pivotal moments in your career. Is there one or two moments that you can call out that influenced your journey and the success of your journey? Because you have
Yeah.
truly an historic success record.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, a couple things that happened quite early in my career. I mean, the first was the sheer luck that I was assigned to the district office rather than to one of the 9 LA community colleges. Because at the district office, I was able to be discovered by the chancellor, who uh, was my mentor and my supporter and opened so many doors for me. He also constantly challenged me and gave me assignments that were outside of my job description. But I relished that because it gave me an opportunity to show that I could accomplish things beyond my job title. And one of those assignments that he gave me was to conduct a study on a very controversial topic. Um, and I thought going into there's no way to win with this assignment. But what I learned from that is that you don't have to be in agreement to survive and thrive. That people can respect you even if they don't agree with the position that you happen to be putting forward. And then, as an outcome of that study, I realized that in order to distinguish yourself, or one way to distinguish yourself, is to identify an unmet need and become an expert at meeting that need. And I would give us an example. Xerox. So Xerox was the first into copying. And there have been many other companies who market copying machines, but we all still refer to Xerox. So find an unmet need, become an expert at it, and you will be known for that. And then I think the other pivotal moment for me, and this has happened actually several times, was to know when to move on. And I have a belief about life that when things are negative, it's because they're incomplete. And what I mean by that is that sometimes when we're in bad times, it will cause us to take an action, to take a move. And later, when you look back on that time, you realize that you thought it was bad because you couldn't yet see the complete picture. You couldn't get far enough back to see what was going on. And there have been many instances in my life during a bad time that I took an action that ultimately changed my life and my career in a very positive way.
Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful. I see the clock running. Let me see where I want to take it. Let me ask this. You are now serving as a board member. You're heading into your 3rd term doing this work. How do you see higher education differently? I can only imagine now as a board member and then 29 years of being a CEO that you may see the sector differently. But I would love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, so as chancellor of the Foothill-De Anza Community College District, I reported to a governing board. And so I became quite clear about what a board needs from the CEO and what the CEO needs from the board. So that has helped me a lot. But I think that after all of, nearly 30 years of watching boards of trustees, I never really understood the burden of running for elected office and also having to maintain that base of support. I also didn't realize that board members have relationships with each other outside of the public meeting. And then I think the other realization for me is that board members come with a whole set of skills and expertise and experience. And CEOs and the institution as a whole really ought to utilize those skills, expertise, and experience for the benefit of the institution.
That's great. That's great, Dr. Thor. Let me ask you this. What do you see to be the future for community college? Next 10 years, if you wanted to make a prediction based on your lived experiences, your current experiences, what do you see on the horizon for community colleges?
So we're certainly in some difficult times right now. We've got, a disinvestment by many states and legislators and so on in higher education in general and community colleges in particular. Uh, we have rapidly changing technology and the skills required in the workplace. We have attacks on academic freedom and DEI, and also attacks on, uh, uh, just the whole way we operate our institutions. Um, and I think that uh, we are going to have to do business differently. We're going to have to embrace even more partnerships for the purposes of efficiency and cost effectiveness. We're going to rethink, the so-called two-year degree, and provide many more options for students, around stackable credentials. We have to be better at developing alternative sources of revenue. And we have to do a better job of telling our story because right now, lots of people do not believe in the value of higher education.
Well said. Well said. Let me ask you this. How have you, and I think I've asked you this in person, but it's an opportunity for me to ask you this on camera, is how have you managed to balance the demands of what you are truly living out as your God-given purpose and along with your life and family? What advice do you have for how one is to find this balance?
Yeah, I think that what balance I have had in my life has been because of my family, not in spite of my family. Uh, so it is really important to me that my family be foremost in my life. So when my children were growing up, um, when I came in the door at night, I put down what in those days was a briefcase. Today, you put down your phone or your laptop or whatever and attended to their needs. Um, you know, I was not the president at home. I was a wife and mother. And we always took wonderful vacations that created great memories for my kids. And I'm very proud of the fact that both of my children are community college faculty members. So, all those years as a president didn't damage them too much. It actually inspired them to follow me into community colleges. And they've also given me three wonderful grandchildren, aged 3 to 7, and I strive to be the very best Nana that I can be.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What advice do you have for particularly women that are seeking to make impact in higher education? Certainly, all can learn from this lesson, but specifically because of your historical significance,
Mhm.
could you just share some advice that you would have for
Yeah,
anyone
and
watching this right now?
um, I'm really proud of what women in community colleges have accomplished. When I first became director of communications in the Los Angeles Community College District, I was 25 years old, the youngest
Wow.
director in the 9 college system, and the only woman. So things have really changed since those days. When I became president of West Los Angeles College, I was not only the youngest president in the state, but at that time, there were only about 12 women in a at that time 107 community college assistant. So my advice for women, but I also for men, is to seek out a mentor and supporters. You don't have to do this alone. Also, don't fall into the imposter syndrome of thinking that you're not good enough. If you lack confidence, practice what I call acting as if. And what I mean by that is, say, if you want to be a great public speaker, tell yourself you are. Act as if, act the way good public speakers act. And very shortly, that will be your reality. And so I acted as if through most of my career. So, I mean, you can imagine being a 36-year-old female college president. I had to do a lot of acting as if in those days. And the last thing, truly very, very important, is be authentic and live your values and maintain your integrity at all costs.
I love it. I love it. I love it. My final question for you, Dr. Thor, as we wrap up our time together. As you know, the show is called Discovering Your Mission. It's an opportunity for all of my guests to share. Sometimes it's a purpose statement. Sometimes it's a true mission statement. Sometimes it's a motto, but I certainly want to give you the opportunity to share with us, what is your mission statement of sorts and your why behind the creation of that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it's really important to me that what I do with my time makes a difference, that I leave things better than they were when I arrived. And since my undergraduate days, I have loved Don Quixote, the Man of La Mancha. So in many ways, my mission has been to dream the impossible dream. And happily, sometimes I get to dream the possible dream.
So beautiful. Dr. Linda Thor, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom shared.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed visiting with you.
Wow, what an interview. Dr. Linda Thor, thank you so much again for your time and wisdom shared. Well, if you've seen the show before, you know that at this point in the show, I'd like to share with you my 3 key takeaways. Now, certainly these are not the only key takeaways in this interview. However, here are the 3 that I want to highlight for you at this time, and I certainly want to encourage you to find your 3 highlights as well. But here are my 3 key takeaways. Number 1, Dr. Thor talked about having a vision and empowering your team around that vision. She really began to unpack that you have to trust the team that you've built and allow them to do their job. But you unify everyone around that vision, and you make sure they have the resources and the culture, the environment necessary to fulfill that vision for the students that you're seeking to serve. That was very powerful. Secondly, Dr. Thor talked about identifying an unmet need and becoming an expert at meeting that need. This was where she was really beginning to talk about branding and your path, your purpose, and the work that you're doing to truly add value given situations. But this is also a part of that climb that many of you all are seeking to make in your respective careers, no matter what that may be. So let's think about how we can find those unmet needs and what we can do to fill those unmet needs and allow that to create new opportunities for us and our family. Last but certainly not least, Dr. Thor talked about focusing on culture and shared values. That it is very important at the institutions in which she was serving that she found ways to really elevate the culture of those organizations, of those institutions, the people serving in those spaces, so they in turn could then serve the students through shared values and really bring about what the mission, what the vision was all about. Once again, Dr. Thor, wonderful interview. Thank you so much for your time. And as always, I hope that you enjoyed this time that we have together. Head over to itsdrmordecai.com for more content and information. Take care, everyone. See you soon.